Today I was talking at home, and we were discussing an event involving someone we love very much, a difficulty, a suffering they went through, a loss. And I was just talking about how important it is, how much of a difference it makes in our lives even when we're suffering, even when we are hurt by events, don't allow the victim mentality to take root within us. Because the victim mentality, the one that conditions us, to think, oh, poor me, I didn't deserve what happened to me. That spirit, it's very diabolical within us because it breaks our capacity for recovery. Every time I think life has been unfair to me, every time I think life owes me something, I naturally paralyze my strengths and anything that could lead me forward. And sometimes we are very cruel to ourselves like that. We feed for years and years and years without realizing that we are feeding this victim spirit. Life owes us nothing. No. Life is always beautiful if we perceive it as such. If we're willing to cast our eyes on what still remains. Okay, we lost. And what can we do to recover even a little more than what we lost? Sometimes in some situations that we think we're a loss, it was actually a blessing. Because before I used to get really annoyed, by anything. Sometimes I'd get annoyed about a flight that went wrong. Not today. I've been trying to replace the logic of what annoyed me with this. So it didn't happen because I wasn't supposed to go. So I'll make the most of this moment I have here and see what good I can extract from it. And when we start to abandon this spirit that's sometimes diabolical, then why is it diabolical? Because it disrupts the harmony within us. So many times I have diabolical feelings. If I look at my life and see myself as a poor victim, poor me, this self-pity, that's diabolical. It's a diabolical feeling. What I need to do is roll up my sleeves and get to work on what I can still do, and even recognize the part I play in what doesn't go right. Because sometimes it's a sequence of mistakes. It went wrong here, it went wrong there, and I don't have the courage to start looking at how I've been doing. Sometimes it's a disharmony that precedes all other mistakes. A disharmony that I'm often used to and no longer perceive its effects on me. So, a good way for us to heal our behavior, what is often determinant in us, our way of being. I need to heal my way of being. It's me realizing the beauty of life. Yes, life is beautiful. Rid myself of victimhood and go fight. Go seek my share. There's so much to live, my friends. Visit a hospital and you'll see. When a person faces the limit, illness is like that, right? It strips us of all the excesses. We become very real. Find someone who is living the destitution that illness shows, and you'll see a real human being. Because sometimes when we're very healthy, very full of opportunities, we hide, we pretend. But illness doesn't. It takes everything from us. It takes everything that could seem like a hiding place for us, everything that could function as a hiding place. In fact, I keep identifying how, when a person experiences maturation, how they discard these hiding places throughout life. And it's so good to live with these people who no longer need hiding places. Maturity does that to us. We discard the hiding places that were once so fundamental for us to be who we wanted to be. And then the passage of time makes it so that those who are truly interested in us stay by our side, not just in our shells. Because success is a shell. Sometimes people approach you because they know you're someone who succeeded in your field. So it's good to be seen with you. It's good to take a photo with you. It's good to show others that they're close to you, that they're your friend. But in reality, they're not interested in who you are. They're interested in the shell you have, which helps them have another shell, which might be interesting. Today, we live in this time where we demonstrate ourselves so much, show ourselves so much. This can become a neurosis because you end up seeking people not to truly meet them, but to feed your need to document and have material to post later. So when we meet and don't feel the need to publicize what we've experienced, it's because we truly appreciate what we've experienced. I'm not saying publishing is a problem. I'm saying that often, in the excess of publication, we're hiding our need to instrumentalize the other, to just enjoy the shell that is the other. Success is an example. But money, too. How many people approach others because of what they can materially offer them? which is also nonsense because it could be the most comfortable situation in the world. Personally, I can't stand it if my soul isn't feeling good. Oh, that boat is wonderful. We're going to spend a week there. God forbid a wonderful boat with people we don't identify with. What might seem like paradise to me is hell. Oh, but we're going on a beautiful trip. All expenses paid. And what do I pay to be there emotionally? And there are people who subject themselves to this. They spent the weekend just read here to show off, just to maintain their own shell and that of others. And then the emptiness of the heart naturally happens. We become hollow inside because life is so outward, and so little inward, that we end up losing our own inner joy. So overcoming all this so that life is worth it requires daily reflection, requires a daily exercise of identifying where are we really exercising ourselves. I'm talking about myself too, of course, but I'm sure you, in different instances, experience the same conflict I do. You also notice the social hollowness, the anthropological hollowness all around you, or even within you, because that has been a characteristic of our time. We are increasingly empty. We are disinclined towards content. We are very fond of brief speeches. And with that, we are causing a terrible human loss. We're empty, we're foolish, we're superficial, we're trivial. And this triviality, this superficiality, has caused a terrible social loss. And that's why we need to keep emphasizing this. If we don't change the way we educate our children, instilling values in them from an early age, we shouldn't expect change. If I skip the toll booth to avoid paying, and if I'm enjoying it like everyone else who pays, I have no right to open my mouth to talk about corruption in Brasilia. If I'm not honest in my working relationship with my employee, if I deprive him of his rights, if I'm not fair to those who work with me in compensation, I have no right to speak. Of the thieves who loot stores, who feel entitled to break everything. So it's a chain. I don't want to be left out of this reflection. You know why? Because the hollow world is also in me. God forbid I keep making moralistic speeches, putting myself outside of history. No. I also have to manage the dangers of frivolity daily. Or do you think I'm immune? I'm not. I reflect all the time on how I choose to be who I am, to be who I can be, And if we don't rid ourselves of the complacency that makes us crazy, foolish, superficial, and unable to transform realities, we lose the joy of life. Because what's good, what makes us feel alive, is precisely when we realize that we contribute to a process. And over time, we start giving up wanting to change the world, When we're younger, we have all those dreams. That thing, I'm going to be a revolutionary. Until the day you discover that you can't change much. Okay, but then where can I? And you start acting in the space that suits you. For example, by pulling people out of this victim mentality, I can't maintain the victims. That poor person, eternally pitiful, who doesn't even want to work, who we have to carry on our backs forever. I'm not obligated. Oh, but Father, what about charity? Charity, my daughter, is opening the eyes of the other so that they go get their share. Sometimes charity is putting the other in their place. Enough. I'm not your automatic debit. How many of us within our homes represent this? We stopped being people a long time ago. The other only sees us as an automatic debit. There's nothing crueler than that. You even lose the pleasure of helping because the other only sees you as an ATM where they go, enter a PIN, and take what they want from you. Sometimes we maintain these relationships because we lack the courage to break the victimhood that is within us, that is in the other. I learned a lot of this from life. Sometimes the victim is maintained by me, who insist on helping, and don't realize that sometimes the best way to help is to wake them up, say no once in a while, so that they start living again. This life is too beautiful to be wasted with dishonesty, or for me to be forever a poor victim, always justified by the difficult past I had. There are so many stories inside me that would give me the right to say, wow, come on, Father Fabio, Poor thing. What a difficult life. No, I don't want that. No. What I want is to recruit daily what life can offer me, even if it's just a little thread. I'll hold on to it. Life I want to conquer through hard work, because I already have God's grace. Oh, but if I don't do the hard work, grace doesn't act. Grace doesn't even produce effects on me if I don't put in the hard work. That's how it works. Want an easy life? Sit on a coconut pudding.
My heart, half steel heart, and truth. We all have a kind of weak heart inside our chest. It's not like this. In all the human heart, the two realities are reconciled: weakness and possibility. Now it all depends. This weakness and this force depends on the part we feed. Music asks, it is a proposal. You know, my people, I always interpret the option for Jesus as being an option for what is noble, as if you had the opportunity to choose the dreams you will dream for your life. There are people who dream noble dreams, others not so much so. It all depends on the choices you are doing throughout your life. It all depends on what you learn as value, what you are incorporating in your own life. I have no doubt that the choice for Jesus, it puts us from the perspective of dreaming loudly. I do not speak of dreams that put us with vanity, of realization of this. Nada. I am talking about an inner realization that goes beyond the meaning of this exteriority that people can see in us. Because you could suddenly interpret loud dream like being a famous man, a great woman, full of possessions, having a lot of money, vanity. No, I'm talking about that satisfaction of being who you are. Dreaming loud to have feelings in my heart noble. Being a person sensitive to the needs of the world. Being a person who adds to the society in which he is living. Is it so beautiful for us to find throughout Brazil that makes a difference? That's what I'm talking about. From time to time, life puts us underground. Have you noticed that there are feelings that push us down? Could you already observe that sometimes your heart is taken by some human petty that throws you down? I'm sorry this every time when I'm sorry. This is interesting. The process of repentance in my heart makes me realize that how much my attitude took me down. And that's why I feel so sorry. Because I am a man full of defects. But I don't like losing it out of sight. I want to get things from above. I want to be a friend of the things of God. I want to be a partner of what works out, what it raises, what it builds. If I can't do well, if I don't live to do good, what will be left? Either I will be a neutral, or I will be someone who does evil. I don't know if there is human achievement in these two situations. Be neutral. Do not change or decrease, or live to partner with what is the culture of the underground. What is a shield? What plays down? What damages? What? Unless it is not. I don't think we need to waste our lives by partnering with what pushes us down. How do we partner with these things? When we allow our heart to become a territory for the development of this is. I remember that when I was at school, in the first year of primary, the first primary year of elementary school, our teacher taught us how to plant beans. And we planted the beans in cotton, didn't we? You must have gone through this experience too, right? We had a paircinho that we took from the house. The teacher Sadin has Azul is here laughing. Remembering this. Must have done this a lot with the students so. We put on that sauce of cotton. We wet that cotton and hit a seed, a bean, which is already the seed, right? And our curious eyes, every day, kept watching. We had a moment of our class that Donna Rosangela took us to see the situation of beans. In the early days, nothing happened. On the first day, on the second, nothing happened. But suddenly it comes from the middle of the cotton, and we had the mission of keeping that cotton always damp. Suddenly a green brown, and then we saw the whole process of beans growth in the middle of that soaked cotton, moistened. Do you know what I find interesting? In these small lessons that life has given us through schools, in these small lessons that our eyes could witness, because someone had one day the sensitivity to show us the process of life. We find that all that we want to grow, we have to plant and cultivate. It was not enough to throw the beans in the cotton. It was necessary to take the daily care of wetting to allow him to have a moisture for that seed to bear fruit. That's it, my people. Spiritual life is like planting the cotton bean. The beans, it reminds us protein, strength, vitality, right? You must have listened to your mother a lot, right? If you do not eat rice with beans, it will be skinny the rest of your life. And we were afraid of being skinny, right? We had a dread of getting skinny, didn't we? Or not. Were you afraid of being skinny? I had horror, because my mother spoke, who does not eat will be skinny. There will be no health. There will be no one. There will be no. That will be no. And she was right. We need the food for us to grow. But it is interesting to realize that for the food to make us grow, he also has to grow. And he has his process. We looked at that soaked cotton, saw the seed born in the middle, and we learned a little about what life is like. A simple event. Today, at this moment, in many places in the world, the seeds are growing. The seeds are fruitful. They are rotting under the earth to give way to the fruit that will then reach our table. That's why I have a deep respect for farmers, men and women who cultivate the earth so that we have the food. When he gets there at the fair so we can buy, my God, how many people had to wake up early for consecutive months, getting up, taking the frost, throwing the water before the sun can dry because of that ice upward shove. A lot of people took care that life came to us. And then we find that our human process is the same thing. That if we also have no commitment, if we also have no cultivation, we do not bloom. And human fulfillment depends on this flowering. The human being will be happier and more fulfilled as he grows up, having solid roots, as the wisdom teaches us. The same so much that the root grows out, it grows inward. The same so much that the plant grows up, it grows inward. Just as that fragile bean root was growing through the cotton so that it could live. It's the same thing with us. My people. We need to grow so that we can produce fruits, so that we can live with satisfaction, so that we can reach the top. Seeking things from above is, first of all, before being an obligation, it is a satisfaction. It bothers me a lot when religion is understood, conceived as a process of obligations. No. It is in the understanding that God does me good, that in accepting the law of God within my heart, much more than obeying a rule, I am favoring inner growth. The other day, a friend of mine played with me at the gym. He is not very religious, but then he went to see the recording of my DVD there in Sao Paulo. He was very touched with everything that happened there. And then this week he found me. So, is your program being live? I want to see this week. Then he came back and said like this, I think I'm getting a little dear. Then he's a person I like a lot, right? I find myself always there. I did his wedding. I presided over the celebration of his marriage. A special friend, but we never talk about religion. We talk about life. I never port with him as a priest. He meets me at the gym and we are friends. We talk about a lot of things. I tell mine a life. He tells him. But at that moment, when he played with me, I think I'm getting a little dear. I realized that in his heart, He was understanding that religion, he is not obliged. But by understanding religion as a beauty to be lived, he automatically interpreted the being Kerala. And it's true. Sometimes in our lives, we have a great difficulty in incorporating value because we always look at value as a rule. The rule is very important. The rule guides. If it were not for the rules, society could not exist. We need the traffic rules. We need the rules written in the children. We need the rules written in the papers. Those that regularize human relations. It can't. But the human being, he has to discover the value, the spirit of the rule. And that's what makes us grow, my people. When we incorporate this value, when we identify with, if I want to be a partner of life, I want to be a partner of what he builds. Just as the bean is born and grows so that our eyes could understand the meaning and process of birth, life, we also discover that our heart lacks the same need. Go up. Seek what is the highest in the world, not for an obligation, but because you deserve it. I understand thus, priestly ministry is a ministry that has to facilitate people's entry into God's residence. It's like a doorman, not to inhibit the entrance. No. To make it easier. A porter that welcomes. That sometimes there is that doorman who doesn't let us get in ill. In our case, no. The priest, the religious sister, everyone who somehow evangelizes. Our mission is to open the doors of God's house and invite you to enter. You will always be very welcome. God has a lot to offer you. When God really does part of your life, your human structure, you can be sure that you will grow a lot as a person. What is normative? Because it's normal. Everyone goes by. I pass, you pass. Ivan also passes, the people who are here. There are some phases of our lives that these crises are more acute. The first major crisis, for example, which we face from an existential point of view, is precisely adolescence. Because in adolescence, we live a phase of transition. We are no longer the child who was, but we are not the adult anymore. So, this phase, everyone who lives with a teenager knows. The teenager is a little angry. He thinks the world is all wrong. He does not feel understood by anyone. Does normative. Is part of life. When we live these phases, and it can come at other times in life, there are some professionals who say that every N9 for us will always be conflict. Because we are finishing a phase of life, starting another. 9, 19. Every time we go through these transitions, it is natural that we live, but it is also natural that the experience of these conflicts and the healthy experience of these crises will put us in a context of wisdom, so that we do not think that this crisis is life. It is a difficult differentiation to do, but we need to do it. The crisis I'm living cannot be confused with the life I have. Sometimes it can be very bulky and give me this illusion that my whole life is in crisis. No. Sometimes I have one crisis or another, for example, in the family context. I can have a crisis of faith in my religious, spiritual context. I can suddenly have a crisis with a friend, right? I can suddenly have a crisis with boyfriend, girlfriend, brother. The big problem is when that punctuated situation begins to adranges all life. Then, the conflict you had in effective life begins to disturb your professional life, your family life. your spiritual life, then the crisis is like a river that received too much water and does not fit inside it. What does it do? He overflows. What we can do? Manage the crisis well. As first, find out why it exists. Why am I distressed? Why am I so depressed? Why am I so full of anxieties, insecurities, fears? Which are the words you used? Why is all this today in your story? So instead of looking at all this incompletely, totalizing, right? Try to particularize where this discomfort is born. Of course, he has an origin. Of course, he has a cause. We know that it is no use for trying to take care of the effect if we do not sank it. It's not like this life. If I have an infection, it's no use just taking off the fever. I have to find out the cause of infection and work the cause of this infection, which naturally, fever, goes away. Crisis is usually a fever. It is a fever that will hurt us and will remove our tranquility because something is in disarmamento. And then, my son, you need to know. It may be that your crisis is directly linked to your ignorance of your place in the world. My people. That's so important. Life needs to refer us to this comfort. I think we all deserve this. At one point, you have that satisfaction of knowing, I'm in the right place. I chose right. I have problems, but I'm in the right place. Because we won't tolerate the difficulties if we are in the wrong place. If we are in the right place, if we are doing our lives what we really know that should do, the difficulties that will be proper to this context will be easily administered. A lot of people cannot manage the difficult present moment. It is precisely because they are aware that it is making a terrible mistake. It is making an attack on one's life. And it's that old story. My God in heaven. It is as if at some point in my life I found that I am an unfortunate priest. That I should not have was a priest. That I was a priest for accident. It would be terrible. Just as some colleagues of mine found that they were priests, not because they wanted to, or because they were pushed in the formative process themselves, or because they had no courage to leave the seminar. They had no courage to counteract their mother, counteract their father, the godmother, who already he had chosen, who had already bought him for it. And then he was there, in a life of unhappiness. Why? Then all the difficulties that are proper to the priest's life, he will not tolerate. Why? Because he didn't want to be a priest. He got a priest for accident. It's like marrying the wrong person either. I didn't want to marry that person. I didn't love them enough. That's why when the small crises come, the wedding goes down the drain. You will only be able to endure the great difficulties, the small fights of every day, big and small, if we know that we are in the right place. If I'm living my life the right way, this is important. Find out what our place is in the world and do everything so that we have the right to be there, living the right way in this existential consistency. This is because this is what God wants from us. God enables us from gifts, possibilities, so that we can go to the right place, and there we realize. Regression is a therapeutic process that professionals do. Very contested. There are a lot of people. There are a lot of psychotherapists who likes regression. There are others who don't. There is unconscious regression, which is the one that the person looks like he's sleeping. He is induced to a process I don't know. I think it is not unconscious. She takes a contact with her own life, with her own history, with the facts, in that state that is not that of conscience as we are now. So there. From this perspective, they believe that many traumas are healed because the person reaches a level of reflection, contact with that reality that he consciously has no courage to reach because of the fears, blockages, that the fact itself caused it inside it. On the other hand, in Jung's psychology, they work a little of this regression, but conscious. I really believe that changing habits favors our psychic life. I know that within this perspective, the regression is conscious. It happens without this need to silence a state that is not right to conscious. But it works with this conscious regression. That is the moment that we talk to that regress. Is that right? No, Mr. I right. Now it's good that you are accompanied by a professional, right? Sometimes as friends we regress with each other, right? You start telling a story in a moment, that story thrills, and you start to cry. We only tell you as we feel accompanied, that you have confidence in the person what is on your side. When you are free to tell your story, you somehow are doing the regression. I'm not talking about the one you do inside the office. I'm talking about this healing process that we can often live. Each time we have the courage and confidence of telling what happened to us. The word we say, she has a great power to free us. What we say, what we listen to, the word that is touched by artistic sensitivity, music, poetry, gestural language. It's that old story. Sometimes you listen to a song. You smell your childhood with the music you listen to. I listen to that. And it's impressive how much I make a return in time. I see my house, my mother's pans, the sofa full of hole, the cat hidden inside the hole of the couch, parrot, mango ballad, all right. It is amazing how much those songs light the effective memory within me, because this is very interesting. It's amazing how much music makes us go back in time, because when we regress in a right way, when we come back to the event right, we have the possibility to look to the past with today's eyes. The child suffered in the past. When I am able to of looking at my poverty, my restrictions, and laughing at all this, it is because somehow I can visit this time and discover its value. But how many times in my life, guys, I recalled some events I had and saw inside my house and suffered terribly from the memory. The memory tortured me, but as I was able to tell this to others, as I was able to tell this story, I remember, that there is a fact of my life that marked a lot. I had never told it to someone. I just took the courage to tell when I was a priest. I was doing a homily, and I started talking about how important it is to live life as it is, without being afraid of being who we are. And I gave my mother an example, as I always do. When we lived in Puey, it was a time of poverty for us. We left Aunt because my father had been unemployed for a long time. We were almost missing things. I remember that there in Puey, just when we arrived, things were so difficult that my mother, knowing that there was very little money, she was one day looking for a way to buy a rice that was cheaper. I remember I went with her. I was a teenager, right? And then when we arrived, she didn't go to the supermarket because she didn't money to buy the supermarket. We were what we called the rice machine. Have you seen that? Which is the place where the rice is bagged, takes off the shell and makes the bagging. And she asked like this, "What is the cheapest rice you have here?" And he started showing, right? A lot of rice. And then she saw a very small, right? Then she said, "Oh no. That's a good price. You can only give me 5 pounds of it." And then he said so. "And if it's like lady, you could give the pigs?" And then I saw my mother encourage like this, She looked at him well and said like this, "No, it's for us to eat." And I saw that he was disconcerted with her courage to be poor, right? Not to be afraid to assume she had no money to buy the best rice. But she wanted to buy what she could. And I found his gesture beautiful. because I saw that he was thrilled with her. I saw that he was touched by her honesty. Then he put the £5 she had asked, and then when he delivered the package, he said, "Just a minute. Just a minute." Then he took another smaller package and caught in the place where he had the best rice and put it on 2 shells for her. Funny that I only had the courage to tell it about 20 years after living, because I remember, my people, that I cried a lot to remember this scene. I didn't cry with me, no. I think it's because I have a very close connection with her and I saw the pain closely my mother many times. But what I know is that the moment I told that story inside the church, I felt so free. I started to have the courage to touch my wounds, my shame. This is so beautiful, right? Today I am far from the poverty I lived. I have a life of so many possibilities, and thank God I have been able to do for those that I love what no one can do for me. I don't care. Quite the contrary. I'm very happy, you know. When I see that today, I have the possibility to help my brothers. But this is correcting inside us. This is a way you have to regress when you start to encourage yourself to tell your shame. And then you realize how much a shame can imprison us, how much we can miss the opportunity to be happy, right? If we have a hand on our side holding us, encouraging us, we go far. No one holds us? No. Just be well advised. Well advised. And we are overcoming. Maybe you learn to reconcile yourself with your story. We had no opportunity to study. I had not. Oh, yeah. It is impressive how much God made it happen inside from my heart, so many dreams that I didn't even dream. Now I dreamed of being a good child, being a good student as I could, being a good priest, being a good friend. I always dreamed, exercising my craft well. So beautiful, right? You find out that at some point in your life, you start reading your story from the good thing you are now, but never forgetting what it was until yesterday. We are not by chance. This is regressing in a right way. It is you never allowing you to enter some arrogance inside you because you got something in life, or because you have studied. How many times do we find ignorant, arrogant people because there is a doctorate title, or because he is a famous person, or because she had a recognition of the work? I get fascinated, you know, with the ability Jesus had to make the person look at the past without condemnation. No, it's not to be condemned. Look at the story you have lived so that you are able to live well now. It is equal to confess. When we will confess, we go to tell the sins of the past. There is no way to be sinning at that time. I don't know that you are lying too much, but we go. The raw material is the past. And we tell, "Look, priest, I made a mistake." But the look we throw upon this past is not condemned, my people. It is reconciliation. Good confession is one that makes us look at the past to manage it in a new way. Looking at what we did wrong, but for us to be able to correct now. That's why it's liberating. Receiving confession, living the sacrament of confession is reconciling because of this. Because we play out what was not worth it. And we continue from now on, in a new way, is the possibility. The sacrament of reconciliation places us in the face of a new possibility. That's what Jesus did. The moment Jesus had the exarchon of the tree down, he was not doing that. Zacchaeus, I'm giving you the opportunity to get down from this time. This arrogance. It was arrogant to the point of thinking he didn't deserve to be there. The arrogance of sin is the worst than the other. When the person feels too bad, isn't it? I'm so bad that even God wants me. This is the worst. And he speaks, "Descends, my son, that his place is here by my side." It's so good for us to hear this, my people. When you think the other will send you away, he looks and speaks. No, it's by my side that I want you. One of the most beautiful things that Father Leo knew how to do was that when you arrived there in Brittany in the community he founded, which today Father Vicente fights so much difficulty maintaining. What we saw most, that was it. The happy Leo performed next to the miserables. People who didn't have much life perspective, misery, and he happy. And once he told me, he invited me. They remind me who I am. Even if I'm cute on the outside, even if my teeth are all tidy, even if my clothes are clean, even if I am not drugged. My boys, my children remember my indigence. And when taking care of them, I take care of myself too. All the time we need to live this experience. Look, I want to leave what happened now and I want to start a new life. This is what God proposes to us, my people. And that's what we need to want. Want too. We wanted together. The world gets much more strengthened, much more beautiful, much more pleasant when we are willing to make this experience. I leave what was not worth it, and I assume the good of the life that God prepares me and gives me now. I want that still. Because when we want together, life is much more beautiful. Because we realize that there are other people who are fighting for the same causes as us. Insecurity, fear, anxiety, and the intense conflict between reason and the deepest desire of my heart are feelings that have always been part of my life and caused me many damage in every field of my existence, whether in the family field, in the professional, and the affective. And then I decided that I want to free from all this. Priest, I want to change. I can't stand so much. Live distressed, depressed, confused, and without strength. Everything I do in life usually goes wrong. I want to live a full life. I want to be happy. A simple and complicated life. Just what I want. I once heard, watching a lecture from the Lord, that born it hurts. And that is born again hurts even more. I am trying to be born again because I live a life of sin, and I confess that it really hurts. I want to deliver my life to God, and for that to have strength, because what the world offers is very attractive. But they are illusions and traps. I ask the Lord to help me, and the Lord leads me toward all that I give you. I consider it a good, honest, hardworking, intelligent, dear family and people. But I really need a change. I am willing to give my life to God, and from there, Vanderson, there from Pedralva, Minas Gerais. Thank you, Vanderson. Thanks for the testimony, which is also a sharing. While you talk about your struggles, you also talk about your hope. This is important. Vanderson, in life, we need to discover our place, right? I believe that all these anxieties that are proper, I don't know what your age is, but I feel you live a moment of many conflicts. We all go through this, right? Psychology calls this a normative crisis. Why?
Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey at Path of Faith. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, share it with your loved ones, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content like this.